I sat in my lawyer's office, holding divorce papers with my husband's mistress's lipstick still on his collar from last night. He thought he was leaving me with nothing. But what he didn't know? I'd been planning my exit for 6 months. And honey, I was about to become his worst nightmare. If you've ever been underestimated, stick around, because this story is about to show you exactly what happens when a woman stops playing small. Hit that subscribe button, because you're going to want to see how this ends. My name is Angela, and for 8 years I thought I was living the dream. Beautiful house in the suburbs, luxury car in the driveway, a husband who everyone thought was successful and charming. Terrence was a real estate developer, the kind of man who walked into a room and commanded attention. He had that smile, that confidence, that way of making you feel like you were the only person in the world when he wanted to. That's how he got me. That's how he got everyone. We met at a networking event when I was 27, hungry and ambitious, working my way up as a marketing coordinator. He was already established, already making money, already someone people respected. When he chose me, I felt like I'd won something, like I'd finally made it. He wined me, dined me, promised me the world. 2 years later, we were married in a ceremony that cost more than my parents' house. But somewhere between the wedding and year 8, I stopped being his wife and started being his accessory. Don't get me wrong, I had my career. I worked hard, climbed the ladder, became a marketing director at a major firm. I brought in 6 figures of my own. But Terrence had this way of making everything about him. My successes became his talking points at dinner parties. My ideas became our ideas. My money went into our accounts that somehow he always controlled. And the children I wanted? He kept saying later, not yet, we're building our empire first. 8 years of later. 8 years of not yet. 8 years of me shrinking myself to fit into his vision of what a wife should be. The cracks started showing about a year ago. Late nights at the office became later. Business trips became more frequent. The man who used to text me throughout the day suddenly went hours without responding. His phone, which used to sit on the counter while he showered, now went everywhere with him. Face down, always face down. Password changed to something I didn't know. My mama called me one Tuesday afternoon. She didn't even say hello, just, baby, a man who hides his phone is hiding something worse. You need to pay attention. Mama always knew. She had that gift, that intuition that comes from surviving her own battles. I laughed it off, told her she was being paranoid, told her Terrence loved me, but that night, I started noticing everything. The receipts for restaurants I'd never been to. The perfume on his shirts that wasn't mine, sweeter, cheaper, younger. The way he'd flinch when I touched his phone. The credit card statements that didn't quite add up. And then there was Crystal. I found out about her the way most women do, by accident and all at once. Terrence left his laptop open one morning, rushing out to a meeting. I wasn't snooping, not really. I just sat down to check my email, and there it was. His messages, synced to his computer. Months of messages, paragraphs of messages, pictures I will never unsee. Crystal was 28, worked as his assistant, and apparently, she'd been doing a lot more than managing his calendar. The messages were detailed, explicit, planning their future together. But what broke me wasn't the affair itself. It was the financial part. They were planning to leave me with nothing. Terrence had been moving money, hiding assets, preparing to divorce me and make sure I walked away broke and broken. There were messages about how I was dead weight, how I was too independent, how Crystal would be a real wife who knew her place. There were jokes about my clothes, my hair, my ambitions. 8 years of my life reduced to punchlines between him and a woman who wore my jewelry in her Instagram photos. I sat there for 3 hours reading everything, crying until I couldn't cry anymore. Then I got up, washed my face, and made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. I was going to do something better. I was going to plan. First call was to Diane, a lawyer I knew from my professional network. Sharp as a knife and twice as dangerous in a courtroom. I told her everything. She told me to document everything. So I did. I took screenshots, saved emails, tracked his movements. I became a detective in my own marriage, gathering evidence like my life depended on it. Because it did. Second call was to Troy, an old friend from college who'd become a forensic accountant. If Terrence was hiding money, Troy would find it. And find it he did. Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, a secret investment property in Florida, money being funneled through his business to personal accounts, money that was legally half mine, hidden where he thought I'd never look. But Troy found something else too. Something bigger. Terrence's company was dirty. He'd been cutting corners, bribing inspectors, falsifying documents to get permits approved, tax fraud, zoning violations, the kind of stuff that could bring down his entire empire. And I had every document, every receipt, every incriminating email. For 6 months, I played the perfect wife. I smiled at his lies. I kissed him goodbye when he left to meet her. I cooked dinners and attended his business functions and pretended I didn't know my marriage was a joke. But while I was playing oblivious, I was building my exit strategy. I started my own marketing firm, quietly, on the side. I reached out to clients I'd built relationships with, let them know I was going independent. Most of them followed me. I secured contracts, set up my own business accounts, found an accountant who worked for me, not us. I even rented a small apartment across town, furnished it piece by piece with money I'd been saving from my bonuses. Money he didn't know about because he'd stopped paying attention to me months ago. Every day I got stronger. Every day I got closer to freedom. And Terrence had no idea. He was too busy with Crystal, too confident in his control, too arrogant to think I'd ever leave him. Men like Terrence never see it coming. They think loyalty equals stupidity. They think love equals blindness. The day he served me with divorce papers, I was ready. He did it at home, on a Thursday evening with his lawyer present like I was some kind of hostile negotiation. Crystal wasn't there, but I could smell her perfume on him. He stood in our living room, in the house I'd helped pay for, and told me it was over. Said he'd found someone who appreciated him, said I could take some clothes in my car, sign the papers, and walk away clean. No fuss, no fight. His lawyer slid the papers across the table. The settlement was insulting. A tiny fraction of our assets. Nothing from his business. No spousal support. They expected me to just accept it, to be grateful he was letting me leave with anything at all. Terrence stood there with his arms crossed, that smug look on his face, waiting for me to cry or beg or fall apart. Instead, I smiled. Not a sad smile, not a bitter smile. A real, genuine, knowing smile. I picked up the pen, and I signed those papers right there. Didn't argue, didn't negotiate, didn't shed a single tear. His lawyer looked confused. Terrence looked suspicious. But I just smiled, thanked them for their time, and walked out of that house with my head high. He called me that night, confused. "That's it? You're just giving up?" I could hear Crystal in the background laughing, popping champagne. They thought they'd won. They thought I was broken. They had no idea what was coming. The court date was set for 6 weeks later. Terrence spent those weeks celebrating. He moved Crystal into our house before the ink on the separation papers was dry. They posted pictures online, living my life, sleeping in my bed, eating off my dishes. His friends congratulated him. Her friends called her lucky. Everyone thought Angela had just rolled over and died. But I spent those 6 weeks preparing for war. Diane filed a counterpetition citing adultery, financial abuse, and fraud. We subpoenaed bank records, business documents, phone records. Troy compiled a financial report that read like a crime novel. I organized every piece of evidence into a presentation that would make a prosecutor jealous. The day we walked into that courtroom, Terrence was still smiling. He showed up in an expensive suit with Crystal on his arm, dressed like she was going to a club instead of a courtroom. They looked confident, comfortable, like this was just a formality before they rode off into their sunset. Then Diane opened her briefcase. The first bombshell was the affair evidence: text messages, hotel receipts, credit card statements showing thousands of dollars spent on Crystal while we were still married. Terrence's face went pale. Crystal's went red. His lawyer started sweating. The second bombshell was the hidden assets. Troy's report laid out every account, every property, every dollar Terrence thought he'd successfully concealed. The judge's eyebrows went up. Terrence's lawyer started whispering urgently to him. The third bombshell was the fraud. Business documents showing falsified inspections, emails bribing city officials, tax returns that didn't match actual income. This wasn't just a divorce anymore. This was evidence of criminal activity. I sat there, calm and quiet, while Diane systematically destroyed the life Terrence had built on lies. I watched his confidence crumble. I watched Crystal realize she'd bet on the wrong horse. I watched his lawyer try to object, try to minimize, try to salvage something from the wreckage. The judge wasn't having it. She looked at Terrence with the kind of disgust usually reserved for the absolute worst cases. Then she looked at me with something like respect. When she delivered her ruling, I didn't smile, I didn't gloat, I just listened. 60% of all marital assets, the house, my car, spousal support for 5 years, and she ordered Terrence to pay my legal fees. But that wasn't even the best part. The best part was when she said she was forwarding the evidence of fraud to the district attorney's office and the IRS for investigation. Terrence tried to speak. The judge told him to sit down. Crystal started crying. Nobody cared. His lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. And me? I just gathered my papers, thanked Diane, and walked out of that courtroom a free woman. The fallout was beautiful. The IRS audit came fast and hard. Penalties, back taxes, frozen accounts. His business partners dropped him like hot trash when the criminal investigation became public. Contractors he owed money started filing lawsuits. The house of cards collapsed so fast it was almost poetic. Crystal left him within 3 weeks. Turned out she was only interested in the money and the lifestyle. When those disappeared, so did she. Last I heard, she moved to Atlanta with some music producer. Terrence tried calling me once about a month after everything fell apart. He left a voicemail talking about mistakes and second chances. And could we talk? I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. Some doors, once closed, need to stay that way. As for me, my marketing firm is thriving. I have 12 employees now, major clients, and a reputation for excellence. I bought a beautiful townhouse downtown, decorated exactly how I want, no compromises. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. I take trips with my mama. I date when I want to, on my terms, with standards that would make my younger self proud. The best revenge really is success, but it's more than that. It's peace. It's freedom. It's waking up in the morning and not walking on eggshells. It's making decisions without asking permission. It's looking in the mirror and recognizing the woman staring back at you. Terrence thought he was setting me free to struggle. What he actually did was cut the chains I didn't even realize were holding me down. He thought I needed him to be whole, to be valuable, to be somebody. He was wrong. I was always somebody. I just forgot for a little while. See, here's what I learned. A man who tries to make himself bigger by making you smaller isn't a man worth having. A relationship that requires you to dim your light isn't a relationship worth saving. And sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that ever happened for you. I'm not grateful for the betrayal. I'm not grateful for the pain, but I'm grateful for the wake-up call. I'm grateful I found out who he really was before I wasted another 8 years. I'm grateful I had the strength to plan instead of just react. I'm grateful I bet on myself when everyone expected me to fall apart. So yeah, I smiled when I signed those divorce papers, not because I was broken, but because I knew something he didn't. I knew I was about to win. I knew his victory lap was going to be short. I knew that while he was celebrating with Crystal, I was already 10 steps ahead, building a life he couldn't touch, couldn't control, couldn't ruin. That smile wasn't surrender, it was a declaration of war. And baby, I didn't just win the battle, I won the whole damn war. See, Terrence thought I needed him. He thought I was nothing without his last name and his money. But what he didn't realize was that I was always the prize. I built myself once and I could do it again. The difference is this time I'm building for me. If this story resonated with you, do me a favor. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what's one way you've taken your power back. Subscribe for more real talk and real stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you are never stuck. You're just planning your next move. I'll see you in the next one.